here today because there's been an announcement. First off, just tell us what's happening. Just give us the nutshell, and also then we'll have a conversation about the background to this as well, if that's all right.
Well, as you know, Gary, the announcement that Aviva has sold Friends Provident International to the IFG group, more commonly known as RL360, by advisors and their customers, has been completed as of this morning. Under the announcement made by Aviva and ourselves, 76% of the shares in the company will be sold to IFG. Aviva will keep a small stake, not dissimilar to the small stake Royal London kept at the time of our management buyout. And that will be kept for a period of time to be agreed by both parties. But full control and management of Friends Provident moves across as of this morning.
Well, may I first congratulate you on this deal. Having worked with you over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and when this was first announced, I remember how excited you were about it. How are you feeling? How are you feeling now? You know, it's been a long time coming. Just tell us a little bit about why it's taken so long.
Well, I'm still excited. I guess in truth, after so long, I'm not exactly jumping up and down, throwing sparklers and everything into the air, but there's always been a commitment to get the deal done, and we always knew it would happen. Both Aviva and ourselves were always absolutely certain of that. I know there was remarks made outside the business and in the market by people who thought they knew better, saying it wouldn't, but I always knew they didn't actually have any inside knowledge at all, otherwise they wouldn't have said what they were saying. So we always knew it would happen, and we've always been committed to it happening. There's no real one reason why it took so long. I think there are a number of reasons, but simplistically, it's probably to do with the regulatory approval process. The first task was to get regulatory approval from our core lead regulator, which is the Isle of Man, and that takes time. They need to test everything. We need to put in modeling about how the capital and solvency and liquidity will look under scenarios, and that all takes time to prove to them that the structure worked. And eventually we got our approvals, and that went quite well. And then, of course, Hong Kong, which we didn't know at the time, had changed its rules between striking the deal with Aviva and submitting all the documentation after we'd had Isle of Man approval. And they had requirements for a different type of structure. That slightly threw us, but it was never a major issue, but it cost time. So we had to restructure the deal to meet with approval of the Hong Kong regulator. Again, this applies to everyone. It wasn't personal to us, by the way. This applied to all insurance companies in Hong Kong. And many are still having the same conversations that we've already concluded. So it took us a while to come to terms with that, but also we had to restructure the deal in a way that was fair to all parties, Aviva, ourselves, everybody else, regulators. And that takes time. So eventually we restructured the deal and we got that approved by Hong Kong. And then, of course, we had restructured the deal. So Isle of Man said, we need to look again, which is fine. I mean, that's as they should do. So they went right back to the drawing board and started their approval process from the beginning because the deal had changed. That's all fine. And then we're heading to the stage where we think that's all done. And then the pandemic strikes. So another few months go by while everybody goes out and sits at home and wonders how the world will look. So that slowed down the process. So there's never been one big catalytic moment. It was more a sequence of events of new regulations in the Isle of Man and indeed in Hong Kong. World issues like the pandemic, a whole sea change in the way regulators approve these deals. Our deal is not the only one that's taken a lot longer than they thought. There are plenty in Hong Kong that's still not approved. And indeed, some deals in London have taken longer than ours and are still not approved. So it's just the world has changed. And I think we always knew that there was no reason why we wouldn't eventually get approval. And so it has proved. Well, in pure numbers, IFGL, the owner of RL360, becomes a company with 17 billion sterling of assets, approaching 700 staff, offices quite often overlapping in different parts of the world. So it makes us a bigger operator in every single way: products, advisors, customers, assets, everything. What it does to us is it not only makes us bigger and we hope better at what we do for advisors and customers, it probably makes us particularly stronger. You refer to regional strengths in the Middle East, because it will give us, as well as our ability to work with ESCA advisors in the UAE, it will also allow us to work with insurance authority advisors in the UAE. And I'm not sure there are any other companies who will have that sort of dual licensing capability going forward. Clearly in the UAE, there are regulatory changes afoot, but either way, we're reasonably relaxed about those. And in fact, we're quite excited, I think, particularly in the Middle East, where we believe we'll have a premier position. The two businesses did operate in different ways. The RL360 or IFG model is more centered around headquarters in the Isle of Man. So, of course, the bulk of Friends Provident staff are based on the Isle of Man. So that's actually quite good news for the island and good news for people. A lot of them also, I think, have been frustrated because the business has perhaps not had strategic direction for the last couple of years, not surprisingly, because Aviva knew that the business was going and it didn't receive their focus. So we can give that business its focus back. So I think we have a clear template. We have an integration document that thick, I mean, hundreds of pages, not written by me, everyone will be glad to know. And it covers IT, it covers HR, it covers all sorts of things, and products, which offices we use, everything. And that's going to swing into effect from day one. On the offices side, I can say that we'll keep both buildings on the Isle of Man, Friends Provident based in Castletown, and ourselves, RL360, up near Douglas. Both those buildings will be kept, with more of the operational side being down in Castletown. For all businesses, we'll run it as one group, and more what I call head office functions or marketing and finance, etc., based up in Douglas. Likewise, we'll merge the Hong Kong offices, so the smaller number of RL360 people will go into the Friends Provident building on Kowloon, and likewise in Dubai, again, smaller number of RL360 people in Business Bay will go into the Friends Provident building in Email Square.
David Kneeshaw, thank you so much for sharing this news with us, and good luck with it all.
Thank you, Gary, and thanks for your support over the years.